Hi, I'm offensive boy Garrett J, the founder of Wake Up Warrior, and welcome to Warrior Wealth, the podcast. But as you can tell, I am not in studio today. I'm actually on the road heading to Tampa, Florida. And this week on our podcast, we're going to be releasing edition number 4 inside of our Warrior Wealth series. This time, we're not talking about advertising, we're not talking about marketing, we're not talking about selling, we're not talking about fulfillment. We're actually going to start talking about accounting and in the game of numbers and why knowing your numbers actually matters. So enjoy this week's podcast, and I'll be back here at the end of the show with a short message. Okay, gentlemen, and a few lucky ladies, welcome back here to the Warrior Wealth series. This is episode number 4 in our 5-part series. We'll conclude tomorrow night for free. This entire series is to accomplish 2 things. 1, a very blatant pitch for you to come and attend with us the Warrior Wealth Business and Leadership Summit happening June 13th, 14th, and 15th in Huntington Beach, California at the Paseo Hotel. We have sold out 280 of those seats, and we currently have 20 seats still available by application only. Last night we had almost 50 applications come in after episode number 3. Half of those have been eliminated as not good candidates for the game right now and have been given that instruction. And the other half, well, we're still sitting to see as the rest of these series play out. We will solidify the remaining 20 seats of this event by the end of this weekend. There were a handful that we gave away today. If you are an individual man inside of this game throughout tonight's conversation or any other conversation, or maybe this is your first time here, your opportunity to apply to attend the Warrior Wealth Business and Leadership Summit is down below this video. Also, if you are a woman here in this game, obviously this event is not for you, but we do have events coming up for women sponsored by Wake Up Warrior. We'd love to have you part of that. For notification on that, below this live stream video is another button. Click on that button and you will be taken to another page where you can put in some information for us so that we can reach out to you when that is made available. Tonight, our conversation, we continue down this path of making money, keeping money, and growing money. Tonight, specifically, we're going to talk around keeping the money. We're going to introduce this with one simple idea, and it's this. If you don't give a shit about the money, why do you think that you should actually have it? I hear so many people nowadays talk about how they don't care about the money, they don't care about the money. And yet at the end of the day, if you don't care about the money, who's going to fucking care about it for you? If you're not all about the money inside a business, and what exactly are you all about? Tonight, we're going to have a conversation about why you must give a shit about the money, why you must give a fuck about the money, both making it, keeping it, and protecting what you have built. But before we get into that amazing content tonight, and we take our journey deeper beyond advertising, marketing, sales, and fulfillment, now into our spicy topic of accounting, legal, and taxes, my friends, let's sit back and relax and enjoy a short clip previewing the opportunity at Warrior Wealth Summit coming up here in less than 2 months. Enjoy.
Inside of my life before I started doing this, the majority of the time I was in scarcity, right? So I'd put myself in power so I could produce at a higher level, which gives me peace of mind and a sense of security that I never had before.
At this point in time, I'm just like, man, why didn't I do this before? Like, does it even make sense to build a business without this? Does it? And it doesn't. If you're considering, doing something like this, or if you haven't, literally there is no other way. How can you push to the top? How can you push, to new levels if you're constantly scared that the bottom is going to fall out? This is not even a should. This is a must. It's a must.
The biggest unexpected benefit to that has been the certainty that it's given my queen.
One of the cool things is it's simple to go through the whole process of doing it. So now I can produce at the highest level. This all comes down to investing and protecting your family and your legacy.
It gave me an opportunity to simplify dramatically that process. And to bring more value to everyone, particularly my family, and knowing that I'm leaving a legacy for my boys, that we stand the opportunity to change the trajectory of our family for generations to come.
Dude, red vines, man. I don't know about you, but you gotta have a candy that you love sometimes to just divulge into, you know? All right, so it's time for the Warrior Wealth Summit. This is different than Warrior Con, it's different than Warrior Week. This isn't rah-rah, we're not beating you up. This isn't that purpose. The purpose of the Wealth Summit is to dive into strictly business. And in our business, we've identified 7 dimensions that we actively focus on, which is advertising. This is our ads manager. This is the stuff we do on Facebook and Instagram. We are so active in our advertising campaigns. We're doing something we've never done, which is opening up our ads manager. We spent over $800K in one of them, and we're gonna open them up and show you all the strategies that we've used to get leads, to get sales, how we take a $97 book and have sometimes where it costs us $150. How do we justify and scale a campaign that should, quote unquote, be in the red, but we're able to pull off and scale over the course of 6 months? So we're gonna be opening up our ads manager and showing you what we've done to grow. Second piece is marketing. This has to do with branding, messaging, design, the overall energy of your brand, how we've used movies and marketing to blow up the warrior movement. We're gonna show you how we do documentaries. I'm gonna show you personally how I put together and how Garrett and I put together the sequencing for the movies that we use to sell people, to sell you guys who came in here. We're just gonna show you the documentary, what we call a sales-umentary. The next piece is sales. So we have a sales pipeline for Warrior Week, the same stuff for Warrior Book. We'll show you the sequencing that we've done. A lot of people just see what's on the front side, but many people don't see what's called the secondary funnel or the secondary selling system. The first piece is sometimes just selling to someone on the idea. Once they apply, or once you applied, did you notice there was an entire other sequence that we had, and we do the same thing inside of BMS, inside of DKW with the salons. So we'll show you how we approach.
Well, back from that mini commercial. Again, you know what to do. If that's you, click on the button below and apply for one of the limited seats. I actually know that we've given away 7. I was notified during the break. 7 of the 20 seats have been given away. We had our applications up to 50. We're being very selective about who we bring into that game. If that's you, you know what to do next. Click on that application. We would love to have you throw your hat in the ring to be part of the game with us. Again, investment in that tuition is $1,000. And we have 13 seats left heading into tonight's training. So the last couple days we have covered quite a few topics. We've covered the topic of advertising. We've covered the topic of marketing, and we blended those two together. That was our first live session on Monday. Second, on Tuesday, we dove into the conversation of sales and frameworks. And we took sales and frameworks and we married that up to the conversation of advertising and marketing. We put those two together. Okay, that whole game of make it rain and then convert the game. Then yesterday, here on Wednesday, we took it a little bit further and we talked about fulfillment and ultimately being able to over-deliver in experiences in a way that allowed your clients to see the value was in them based upon your money backing your message. And the overall process of taking a commodity clear to a transformational experience in the way that you deal with the fulfillment of your product, service, or experience. Tonight, we're going to talk about a less popular topic, but one that is arguably as important, if not more important, than any of the topics that we have discussed so far. It is not a sexy topic. It is not a topic that people tend to travel to events to learn or to understand. It tends to be the last thing on the list of entrepreneurs to experience and ultimately understand. Now, I'm not guiltless in this. I have spent the same journey in this game as most, in building big shit, only to watch the big shit I've built be destroyed because of a lack of focus on the topic that we're going to discuss tonight, which is ultimately the idea of finance, accounting, the conversation of taxes, and legal protection. These topics matter, but they're not fucking sexy. Everybody wants to talk about advertising. Everybody wants to talk about marketing. That's why for every event on the idea of back-end managing of numbers and protection inside of taxes and legal, inside of that conversation, there are hundreds of events on the sexy topic of a new strategy using bots through Facebook ad marketing through Messenger. And although they're sexy, these principles we're going to discuss tonight are not sexy, but they become sexy to an individual who actually wants to keep what they build. This is one of the biggest challenges of being successful. People who have not created high levels of economic success cannot appreciate that one of the greatest economic moves you can make in your business are moves to tax avoid situations where taxation can attack you from one angle. But if you play the game according to the rules, the way the IRS has played them out, you can actually not avoid, but play into a game that allows you to eliminate 50 to 60% of your taxes. But this is not a game, and even up to 100%. Now, I'm going to put some disclaimers out there. I am not a licensed financial advisor. I am not a tax accountant. I am not an attorney. I am not anything. I'm a fucking PE teacher. So that's literally my degree. So anything you listen to me about tonight, understand that you are getting qualified information from a guy who has a degree in fucking kickball. And it is highly likely that almost all of you are going to fucking fail, and that it is unlikely that even more than a handful of you will ever produce any sort of result with the information I am about to share with you. And it's even more likely that most of you are going to fucking fail the rest of your lives with this because of what? The fact that you don't do it and you don't give a shit. So, results vary. And my counsel tonight is not counsel. I'm simply going to share my ideas based upon how I have lived the game of accounting, taxes, legal, and ultimate finance around the world of business. And you might find that some of the ideas coming from a highly unqualified expert in the game of kickball, which we are not discussing tonight, but if we were, well, you could trust everything I was saying. Inside of this absolutely intense disclaimer beyond beating the fucking dead horse, so the FCC and everybody else out there who might possibly have one crazy fucking lunatic up in this game who decides to take one thing I say, go and do something radical, and then in that blame me and wake up Warrior in the crest because their life sucks and they made some bad moves. Now, if you can agree to those terms, I want you to hear and chat it in the chat. Say, yes, I agree that I am about to listen to a PE teacher who has a degree in kickball, and everything I do from this point forward is ultimately my decision to make moves, and that I should likely counsel with someone far more qualified than this PE teacher, kickball pro. And if I need more counsel on this, I should talk to a qualified CPA, a qualified attorney, a qualified financial advisor, and just about anybody else who might be qualified. Maybe some qualified babysitters, I don't know. Somebody far more qualified than a fucking PE teacher and kickball coach. Okay, good. We got some of you that agree. Kickball does rock. I agree with you. It's fucking great. That's why I got a degree in kickball. I'm the highest paid PE teacher in the world that I know of. Don't you love that disclaimer? I'm the highest paid PE teacher in the world that I know of. I should throw the world in there, arguably. Arguably, the highest paid PE teacher in the world that I know of. All right. Now that we got all that bullshit out of the way, here's the deal. Money is a very interesting topic. And most people spend their whole lives doing the following. They make money. They spend money, and then they go make some more money. And then they spend some more money. And they live on a place as business owners and hope that they will be able to do this process of make more money, spend more money, make more money, spend more money, the rest of their lives. Now, I live in an area where the average age of my neighborhood is around 65. Now, I am not 65. I am a 41-year-old, about to be 42. My wife is 34, turning 35 this summer. Actually, here in the next couple weeks, April 28th, she turns 35. I'm 7 years older than my wife. My wife is 20 years younger than the average woman in our neighborhood, and I am 20 years younger than the average male in my neighborhood. We also have, by per capita, an average of less than 2 divorces less than the average couple in our neighborhood, too. Here's the thing that is interesting. The game of making money and spending money and hoping this is the game that most people will play their entire lives. They'll make some money, they'll spend the money, and they'll hope that they can continue to maintain the money. At some point, though, in this equation, there comes this reality, this spinoff that happens over here, is that at some point in the game, I have to actually keep money. Like, I can't just make money and spend money. At some level, I have to start actually keeping money. And the money that I keep has to actually start working for me, and it has to start growing more money from the money that I keep. But again, this is high-level shit because most business owners and most individuals will spend their whole lives doing this. They'll make money, they'll spend money. They make more money and they spend more money. And then they hope that they can continue to make more money so they can continue to spend more money. But there are a few who understand that in order for the game to continue to rise and to work, that an individual must actually keep money so that they can grow money. And that the growth phase and the keeping phase of growing money and keeping money is almost more important than any other process that they could experience. So let's back this out to a couple principles, and let's start off with some basics inside of accounting. Now, the first time I learned about any of this shit, I wasn't in college. I was not in classes that talked about that. They didn't talk about income statements or balance sheets. We're going to take a look at both of those for a second. The first person who I ever saw that talked about this was Robert Kiyosaki to me. Now, I'm sure there were a shitload of other people, millions of other people who talked about this before I had met Robert Kiyosaki, but Robert Kiyosaki was the man who introduced it to me. And he introduced this idea of a balance sheet and an income statement. Now, I was so indoctrinated reading a book called Cash Flow Quadrant back here, almost in 2001, 17 years ago when I first began this journey. I'm reading this book, Cash Flow Quadrant, and he's introducing these concepts. And I go into my accountant for the very first time. I get an accountant because I'm starting my own business. The only difference was I was actually not starting my own business. I was a hired salesman for a mortgage company, and I was W-2'd. Now, I didn't know this, and so I sat down with an accountant because I knew that reading the book, I needed to have a business. And so we set up the business, and he let me name it whatever I wanted. He said, hey, you can name your business whatever you want it. So I had an idea 17 years ago that I would create a very professional name for my business. I called my business Big Balla Incorporated. Like, I can't make this shit up. That literally was the name of my first company. Big Balla Incorporated. Really, like Big Balla, like B-A-L-L-A LLC. Now, here's to my demise when I come back after my year of getting paid W-2, and I come back to my accountant and I say, hey, I'm ready to not pay taxes, and I'm ready to do this thing that I learned about that you told me I should do, which is setting up my corporation so I can not pay taxes. And he looks at me and says, you have W-2 income. I was like, and? He's like, W-2 income doesn't do any fucking good inside of having a corporation. You don't get any write-offs. You already paid tax on it. It's like, well, why the fuck would I set up Big Balla Incorporated then if it doesn't do me any good, asshole? Now, needless to say, I didn't really know shit. I had bigger checks than I ever imagined. I didn't even realize how much I was paying in taxes. I just figured you could take all the money, throw it into a corporation, and magically wave a metal Lucky Charm stick across the top, a rabbit came out of the hat, and you didn't pay taxes. Like, I had no idea. I also had no idea that Robert Kiyosaki did not invent balance sheets and income statements. So I'm sitting there with my accountant, and he's breaking down income statements and balance sheets to me, and I ask him this question, and I ask him, do you know Robert T. Kiyosaki? And he says no. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then in my mind, I'm like, this asshole has ripped off Robert Kiyosaki's intellectual property. He has stolen balance sheets and income statements from Robert T. Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. My accountant not only is an idiot for having me set up Big Balla Incorporated, but he also is a thief. Now, I look at him and I was like, well, Robert Kiyosaki invented balance sheets and income statements. Now, my accountant is looking across me at this point, and he's like, I seriously have got the biggest fucking idiot sitting in my office of all time. I'm wearing a suit, trying to be important and significant, and I'm talking like a complete and utter dumbass. Well, I come to find out not only can you not write off W-2 income into a corporation after it's already been taxed, there's no fucking point. And on top of that, I also found out that Robert Kiyosaki did not invent income statements, nor did he invent balance sheets. They just happen to be the very first person that I studied and learned them from. So just in case some of you might be a little bit like me and you're going to think, well, income statements and balance sheets, Garrett must have created these. The shit we're going to talk about tonight, I didn't create it. They're basic principles inside of economics and inside of finance and inside of running a business that you have to know. Their economic principles have been around for a very, very fucking long time, but most entrepreneurs want to spend zero time on them. They would rather spend time doing what? Getting new fucking logos at 99designs.com. So let's take a look at this. What is a balance sheet? A balance sheet is very simple. A balance sheet, it gives an individual the opportunity to look at two things. One, to look at assets, and two, to look at liabilities. Like, very simple game. And it's a very much a my cock is really big kind of game too. And what I mean by that is that there is a ton of manipulation that happens on a balance sheet. The overall goal of a balance sheet is to give somebody the opportunity to be able to declare what the worth of their business is. Okay, now I can either be in a situation of worth in which I am in equity, and I could be in a situation in my worth in which I am in debt. And my worth of being in equity, option one, or debt is a function of measuring these two ideas together, which is my assets and my liabilities. So let's take a look and give an example. So let's imagine I come over here to my asset. I've got my asset column. I've got my liability column. And in my asset column, I have a piece of real estate, and that asset itself is worth, let's say it's worth $1 million. My mortgage against that property is $600K. So when I take a look at this, my asset column, the value of my home, or at least the perceived value of my home, and the liability, my $600,000, the difference between these two is positive. And if I have a positive experience on my balance sheet, which is my assets outweigh my liabilities, then I find myself in a position of equity. And that is where the name inside a property, where somebody says you have equity, that's what they're talking about. But you can have equity in a business across the board, measuring all kinds of assets and measuring those up against all kinds of liabilities. If I have a negative situation in which my liabilities outweigh my assets, then I find myself in a position of debt. And so businesses are measured, one of the KPIs or key performance indicators of a business is to look at its balance sheet. And to be able to say, is my current business in asset, or is my current business in equity, or is my current business in debt? Do I have a positive worth of the business? Do I have a negative worth of the business? Now, inside of this then, this can go deep, deep, deep. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. This is married up to an actual far more important document and series of numbers, which is known as your income statement. Now, I'm not saying that your asset and liability or balance sheet is not important. But what I'm saying is that the more important game, and the reason why most businesses end up failing, is not because of what's going on their balance sheet. They can twist the numbers on the balance sheet to read all kinds of shit. The reason why their business fails is because they don't understand their income statements. Now, what is an income statement? An income statement is measuring two different things. An income statement is measuring income, and it's measuring that against expense. This is why it's called an income statement. Now, the same thing we saw happen on the balance sheet starts to occur here. Let's say, for example, I have $10,000 a month in income, and I have expenses of $7,000. Okay, inside of this then, when I looked on a balance sheet and I was discussing worth, here on an income statement, I'm discussing cash flow. There was a board game, still is a board game, called Cash Flow 101 by Robert T. Kiyosaki. We played that game. We launched huge events, 300 to 500 people. We were one of the largest my company was back in the mid-2004, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. We were one of the largest distributors of the board game on the West Coast of the United States of America for Robert Kiyosaki. We played this board game with a group of investors. We invited 300 to 500 new people every single month. We had a blast at it. And the game was called Cash Flow Quadrant, or Cash Flow 101. All driven on this idea of balance sheets and income statements. So we were talking about this shit years ago. I was in my 20s. When we started having this conversation, I started understanding it. Now, cash flow itself can be in a positive situation. And if I'm in a positive situation or have a positive cash flow, then I'm sitting in a position of profit. Okay, I'm sitting in a positive cash flow, which means I have a profit. Now, what does this mean? The gap between my $10,000 in income and my $7,000 in expense leaves me $3 in positive cash flow, so I have a profit of $3,000. What I had in this game, what I spent, and what I have in money, the net was positive to me. Now, if it's negative and I have a negative cash flow, then I experience what's known as a loss, which means I had the opposite. So let's switch the numbers. And let's say that my number over here was 7K and this number over here was 10K, then I would experience a negative 3K and I would be at a loss. Now, an individual inside of their business is going to fall apart as a business 9 times out of 10 because of what is happening here on their cash flow statements or their income statements. It is a lack of cash that ultimately destroys a business. You can run out of debt for a while. And in many ways, even with tax strategy, you can have the appearance of debt and the appearance of being at a, quote, loss in the business. But inside of that, you can actually be fucking very, very, very profitable, which means cash is king. So in the beginning stages of measuring and understanding your accounting, the game you've really got to know is this week, how much money did we have come in and how much money did we have go out? This week, did I experience a profit this week? If you go through all of my tracking, which inside the Warrior Wealth Business and Leadership Summit, we're going to dive deep and we're going to share exactly how we track this inside of our own games. We're going to talk about how down to the day inside of any of my companies, we can pull up-to-date income and balance sheets. Our balance sheets are not as necessary. I do review those once a month, but our real game that I'm measuring is found inside of my cash flow statements. Does my income exceed my expenses? This last week when I sat down, we were currently at a loss for the week in 4 of the 8 businesses. Not a big panic because the trend, but I'm watching it every week. We go in, we dive in, we say, why are we negative this week? What is the loss that I'm experiencing and why? We see the problem, like, oh, okay, we had this, we had to put this money out for this project. Okay, we pulled that off the balance sheet, we put that money over here. Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's the thing that's scary, though. Most individuals have no fucking idea in the game of business what's actually going on their income statement. Even though they may psychologically understand the concept, and they may have an idea inside their mind that it's important, that they should know about this stuff, that they should be having these conversations, that they actually should have their numbers. Do you know that most business owners, if asked by the bank, or asked by, if I came to you and I said, I need up-to-date books, I need up-to-date books as of last Friday. Month-to-date, year-to-date, and 2017. Give me taxes, up-to-date taxes for 2017. Give me all your books for 2016, 2015. Let's take a look at your books so we can understand what the trends of your business are. Most individuals couldn't give me what the fuck happened last month, let alone what happened in the last year. Couldn't give me year-to-date. And by the way, these are not just businesses that are doing a couple $10,000 or something a month. These are companies that are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month and individuals that are making millions and millions and millions in revenue every single year could not fucking give you clean books. And yet inside of that, they expect to be able to build and dominate. Without clear books, you have no clear looks. Without clear looks, you have no potential to actually build a business that will last. So what do you end up building? You build a business that you end up erasing every couple of years. You become like most small business owners, and you're leaking so much money because you don't even fucking know what's in your bank accounts. You come and you run your entire business based upon one move. Here's how it goes. You pull up your cell phone. You click on your bank app. You look at how much money's in the one account that is all the account that you put all your money into, and in that one account, you make a decision. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make that move. You run it based upon whether or not there's cash today. No understanding of the fact that the money that you actually have in there, 30 to 40 to 50% or more of that money is already spoken for. It's money you're going to have to pay out for payroll, expenses, etc. It's not real fucking money to you. It's already gone. But you are measuring your entire business based upon what's in your bank account today. And then you wonder, why does your shit fall apart? The reason why most coaches and consultants fucking fail and stay in a cesspool of hand jobbing the shit out of each other, which is just about the entire coaching and consulting space. Because why? They're not business people. They're not businessmen. They're backpack pitchmen. And I know, because guess what? There was a period of time between my first businesses and my current businesses that I was that guy. It's hard to give a shit about your numbers when you're not making any money. And that's why most people never get there. They don't have any metrics to go off of. There's no forecasting. There's no true understanding of the numbers. And so they live in this place of fantasy. The worst part about living in a game of fantasy when it comes to your finance, shh, no talking. Living in a place of fantasy when you are in finance is the fact that your decisions become nothing more than fiction. There is nothing inside of the equation of what you're building that actually has a foundation in the facts. And if you don't build a business driven by the facts, then you build a business driven by fantasy. And inside of that place of fantasy, your vision becomes nothing more than fiction. So here's the principle inside of this I want you to catch. Math is money. And money is math. If you don't understand this part of your business, I hope that you don't get successful, because you want to know one of the scariest and most terrifying days that an entrepreneur has is when they actually become successful. Do you want to know why? Because they made all this money, and inside of that money, reality hits. And you know what reality looks like? Taxes, lawsuits, expenses, bills, chaos. Do you know how many entrepreneurs I know that like have tremendous years and they celebrate and they spend all their fucking money, and then guess what happens? Then comes tax time. And they print all their bank statements off and they hand them to this accountant, and they hope that the accountant will like throw a Hail Mary, part the waters, be Moses, save their asses. How do you think I know this? Because I did this 2008, 2009. I didn't pay my taxes 2008, 2009, 2010. I got all my taxes caught up by 2012. Like I was in survival mode. After the implosion of my businesses, I was in pure survival mode. And the truth was, if you go back to my first series of businesses from early 2000 to 2008, I wasn't really plugged into all this shit either. I just figured my job was to go pitch shit. What I never recognized, though, was actually gaining mastery over the logical fundamentals of money and understanding that math is money and money is math, and that even a PE teacher, as ridiculously dumb as I was when it came to the math and the number game, I wasn't very good at it. I struggled with it about as much as I struggled with my spelling. I could kick a fucking ball, but counting shit, high numbers, understanding metrics, understanding what numbers say, it was all confusing to me. I was the guy on the outside in the matrix, confused by what I was seeing inside the matrix. I was delusioned by what was happening. So in 2009, 10, 11, things began to turn for me. And I started to realize that if I was going to build a business, I had to build a business driven by the facts, but I had to build a life driven by the facts. Like, it wasn't just about like building a business by the facts. Like, I needed to build a life driven by the facts. I needed to become very comfortable with money and the truth of money. You know what I love about my bank statements? My bank statements and my bank accounts don't give a shit about my feelings. They simply deliver the facts to me. They say, here is how successful you are or are not. When the tax bill shows up and it says 1.2 million in personal income tax, it's a fact. It's not something I can dance around, like there's no arguments. That's after ridiculous amounts of deductions and fucking hardcore tax strategy. Yet inside of it, a number is what it is. And either I can pay it or I cannot pay it, which I can. Like, there's not like another conversation of this. It's like, here are the facts. Here's the fucking facts of the numbers that you are dealing with. I was talking to an individual this morning, and he said, you know, one of my patterns as an entrepreneur for about 5 years, every night I would drink a bottle of wine with my wife, and we'd smoke stogies. And then the next morning, I would hide all the bills from her so I didn't have to actually deal with them. You know what? I had that strategy, too. I'd literally pack away all my fucking bills. I didn't pay anybody. I changed. I didn't even answer my voicemail. I still, to this day, don't answer my phone at all if I don't know who you are, because I just let it go to voicemail, and I tell you on a voicemail, I'm not going to actually fucking call you back. Because why? Because my entire world had fallen apart under the facts that I avoided. My strategy for dealing with the facts were drink. My strategy for dealing with the facts were yell at my wife. My wife would come to me and say, do we have money for the bills? And I would be like, God damn it, woman! Do you not know how stressed out I am? Yeah, that's a good fucking strategy right there. Drink and then yell at your wife. That's gonna help things a lot. That was my strategy for about 3 years. Drink and yell at my wife. Good fucking strategy. I was so terrified of my numbers that I would ignore my numbers. I would ignore reality. I would create my own numbers in my mind. I would look right at the reality, and then I would create a story around those, and then I would lie to my wife. Hide. I ran up credit cards. All kinds of shit. Trying to avoid the one thing that I thought was so terrifying. And then I fell in love with the facts. And for the past 7, 8 years, I love them. I can deal with the facts. What I can't deal with is fiction. What I can't deal with is fantasy. What I can't deal with is the hope that shit's going to work out. So my marketing campaigns can be on point. My advertising campaigns can be on point. All of that can be on point. But here's the reality. If I do not have access to the facts on the backside, I'm done. Let's move to another principle in this. In 2012, when I launched Wake Up Warrior, I started teaching this principle, the king eats first. There's a couple individuals who printed this on shirts, good for them. They were students of ours who used to be here. But I started teaching this idea that the king eats first. And I was inspired around it because I was sitting there with this very frustrating game that existed for me in dealing with my books. Particularly as a small business owner, it was very difficult. Now I'm considered a medium-sized business. Not a big business by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a medium-sized business. Here was how I used to create my decisions around how much money my wife and I and our family should make. Here's how it would go. We would have gross revenue, which was the top line revenue of everything we had built. I would then have my expenses, which are my payroll, my teams, our expenses for offices, whatever it was. I would roll out all my expenses. So step one, I would sell a bunch of shit. Step two, I would deal with all my expenses for the business. And step three, whatever was left over was for the king. So the king was always eating last. How did I determine how much money I made? Well, I determined how much money I made based on what was left over. Now, I'm going to take a little pause on this. As some of you can tell being here right now, I am not just a guy who fucking yells. I am very tactical about the shit that I do. The topic that we're on right now, we're going to spend 4 to 6 hours. We're going to peel back and show you at the Warrior Wealth Business and Leadership Summit how to begin the basics of starting to track this shit. And at the same time, how to not get overwhelmed by it. How to know what numbers to worry about and what numbers not to worry about. What to do if you're currently in a deep fucking hole, even if you're back on taxes for a couple of years. And what to do inside of that if you're up on taxes, you're up on the game, but you need better strategy. Did you know that 80% of the current code on taxation in the United States of America, that the IRS and the tax code, most of your accountants utilize about 10% of what the code is. It's basic and it's simple. But 80 to 90% of the deductions and opportunities inside of the IRS code here in the United States of America, I can't speak for any other country, has been written so that entrepreneurs can manipulate the economy for the government. Meaning they deliberately give write-offs, deductions, and complete elimination of tax driven by completely legal strategies that the government has created so that entrepreneurs can make and create more jobs so they can tax more people. It's like looking at it from this. You're saying, I'm a country, I need more taxes. We don't have taxes, we can't run our country. How do we get more taxes? Well, we can tax the people. But what if we created policies in this other part of the code that actually said, hey, entrepreneurs and business owners, if you do A, B, and C, and you put your money into the economy in this way, inside of that way, we're not only going to give you at times dollar for dollar and even better write-offs against your ordinary income, but we're also going to give you an opportunity to actually get more than that, and here's why we want to give it to you. Because if you make those moves, you're going to make more jobs. If you make more jobs, we can tax more people. And we'd rather tax another 30 people than just tax you. So if you'll give us this money and put it into these games in these ways with your business, into the economic cycles of this country, we will give you significant opportunities to actually pay us less in taxes. Because we are going to get more in taxes than if we just tax you straight away. But most of my teams that I ever worked with in taxes were dumbasses. They knew the 10%. They would say you have no choices. But I went on the prowl. At the Warrior Wealth and Business Leadership Summit, my team is going to be there. And for the last couple of years, we've been doing shit and making moves to ultimately get me to a place of paying zero tax over the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to take us a little while to get there, but completely legally, playing by the government's rules, not stealing, not lying, not fucking playing in fantasy, not hiding shit, legit on board. And I'm going to have my teams there at the Warrior Wealth and Business Leadership Summit. Some of you, the fact that I'm even fucking talking about this at this event should pay me literally 25% of the fucking savings alone inside of your business over the next 24 months, not the $1,000 fucking tuition. So you can see at this event, we are going to be addressing issues that producers face who make money and are successful, And we're going to be addressing issues on the rookie side, which is guys who are still trying to figure out how to make money at a higher level. And we're going to bridge these two together. But your way of getting access to that right now, in 10 minutes, I'm ending this training. I've got Warrior Week 47 tonight. We've got it's our second to last night. They got a special ceremony, experience, and evolution they go through that I take them through. And that happens right here at 6 o'clock, in literally 9.5 minutes, I'm ending this thing. Your chance to apply is now. Stop fucking around. Do you know how much money I have invested just to gain access to the relationships and networks that I'm going to bring there? Over $1 million. This is the last time we are running this event this way. In 2019, this event will be $10,000 a ticket. The end. The fucking end. Why am I doing it this way? Because I'm going to record all of it. Why do you have an opportunity to apply right now? Because you're here on this training. Notice we have 150 people live on this training, just over. We have 500 people on the first one because it was sexy. We got to talk about marketing and advertising. Then we get to the real money moves the players want to know about. And guess what? We have 150 people. Isn't that some funny shit? And that's typically how life goes. Everybody's excited to show up for the fucking cheerleaders and the fireworks show, but nobody wants to clean up afterwards. Yet the ballers, players, the big ballers, the producers who actually make fucking money realize at a certain level that being able to make more money requires you to keep more fucking money. And the only way you're going to keep more money is to figure out how to turn the IRS into your partner instead of your fucking enemy. Because the IRS is not my enemy. I'm not upset at the United States of America, the state of California, or the Orange County taxation system. I pay a 2.1% property tax on all my property on the beach along Orange County. I'm not upset about it. It's part of the game. I get it. But if I'm going to play part of the game, then I need to know the whole fucking playbook. And I need to know what's going on. And I need coaches on my team. And I need players on my team who understand 80 to 90% of the code that nobody even has a fucking clue about. And I'm sorry, your IRS, your H&R Block, and your local get your taxes done at fucking Walmart, that works if you are a W-2 employee. If you are a business owner and you are a businessman or woman inside of this, I'm telling you right now, you are fucking ridiculous. Some of you are sole proprietors. You are getting paid and you are not even incorporated. And I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? Apply. We got 8 minutes left. And then a training tomorrow. And then we're done with this series. And then you will watch me not give something like this online again for like 6 months. I'm shutting all my public shit down. So... Why? Because we're big enough into the thousands now internally. I'm focusing all my energy on the people who are paying to play. And we're blowing people up. Don't fucking around with yourself. This is your window. Click on a button and apply. Let's jump into 2 more concepts to end this off. So here's what I started doing. I asked myself a question. What do I want to take home? And what I mean by this is how much money do I want to take home? My executive teams come to me across each of my businesses and they ask me the same fucking question. Do you know what question they ask me? They ask me, how much money do you want to make from each of these businesses? And you might be sitting there going, well, what do you mean? What do you mean, how much money do you want to make? I want to make as much as possible. No. How much money do you want to make? So here's how I do business. Step 1, I figure out how much money I want to make. If I want to take home $3 million personally, if that is my target, to take home $3 million, then this itself is the result that matters to me because the businesses are existing for fucking me. They exist because I bleed, sweat, cry, stay up late at night to fucking build them. They exist because I take the risk. So first off, as a king, I determine what I want to make. Let's play that number out and say it was $3 million. The number could be 300,000, could be 30,000. Don't get tangled up in the number. Say it was 3 million. Then I would work my way back from this because this is king's cash. And then we work our way back out over into the business across all aspects of fulfillment, marketing, advertising, sales, and we figure out what the numbers have to be here. What does the number have to be here so that I can hit this number? Most people will come to you and they will tell me this. They'll say this. Well, my business did X, Y, Z. I was like, I don't give a shit what your business did. How much money did you make? I've met individuals that do 10 to 15 million a year, don't make more than 200,000 a year. Your margin and the amount of cash that you take home is the most important aspect of your business. How much do you get paid? Otherwise, what you end up doing is you end up building a business that serves everybody else but you. Everybody else gets paid but you. Last idea. If you don't protect what you have built, you will never keep what you have created. If you don't protect what you have built, you will never keep what you have created. It's amazing what happens when you start to create a little bit of success. Everybody feels fucking entitled to a piece of it. The looters, the moochers come out of nowhere. The IRS isn't your enemy. The IRS is your ally if you choose to make them your ally. I'm not afraid of the IRS, not afraid of the U.S. government. The U.S. government's my partner. I live in the United States of America. I'm glad we have a government. I'm glad we have people that build fucking roads and that take care of shit, clean the beaches. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm not doing that, so I appreciate that they are. But I'm not going to pay more than I need to. I'm going to pay and play inside of their game. I'm going to play by their rules. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to play by their rules. And I'm going to win the game with them so that we all win. On the flip side, I'm also not stupid enough to believe that somehow, as I rise in success and as our companies rise in success, that the looters and moochers don't come out from all over. There is almost zero conversation of protection that goes on in most entrepreneurs' lives. Zero. There's no discussion of protection that comes to protecting their money, protecting themselves, protecting their family. Almost none. Everything is about produce, 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 produce. Get paid, get paid, get paid, get paid. Nobody talks about keeping it. And almost nobody talks about protecting it. Protecting what you keep. Protecting what you create. This means you're going to have attorneys. This means you're going to have to sue people. This means you're going to get sued. This means the warfare becomes legal. It also means that you've got to build up fortresses and moats and vaults inside of your life to sustain the game for you, your legacy, and your family. If you don't protect it, why the fuck would you build it? I know why. Because your desire in your life comes down to how most entrepreneurs will live their entire lives. They make money, they spend money, and they hope they'll just continue to be able to do this the rest of their lives. Gentlemen, accounting, tax, legal. This is weeks and weeks we could spend on these topics. Each one of them, weeks. But at the end of the day, I got 30 seconds. There's only one thing for you to do here. I got one more session with you tomorrow. And it is for you to make a decision. The decision is simple. Is it time for me to step forward into this game? The Warrior Wealth Business and Leadership Summit is going to be the most high-powered event that you've ever been to. I'm not just fucking saying that. The way I run our events and the standard at which I operate them is off the fucking charts. The crazy part was, we knew we could have done this at $10K a ticket for 100 and 150 people if we just went after exactly who I wanted to go after. What I mean by that is we just stepped into my networks and we made it an exclusive, elite business owner only experience. But I knew that there were a lot of individuals out there like me back in the day. Individuals that needed this information. If they had some of the knowledge and the tactics and they had just some of the simple of hundreds of ideas and over 30 different blueprints that we're going to give you at this event, if I had even one or two of them back when I was struggling to get things on point, would have changed everything for me. And so this event will be the last time that we run the event this way. And it'll be an opportunity for some of you to be able to make a leap, because what I'm after are case studies. What I'm after are more men in our brotherhood. What I'm after is an opportunity for the men in our brotherhood and for men who are coming for the very first time to experience what might be possible in their life if they actually could produce at the level they were born to produce. Production is not an option. Production is a standard. Production is required. Profit must exist. And the only way you can truly have it all is to have mastery of the game of money and the game of business. In the end, you've got to make it, you've got to keep it, and you've got to learn how to grow what you've kept. And across all of it, you've got to protect it. Because if you want to keep it, and if you want it to grow, and if you want it to become a legacy that you could experience as beautiful, and the game itself opens up in ways you never imagined possible, you're actually going to have to make moves to protect yourself, your family, to protect what you've built in your businesses, to actually protect what you built. Tomorrow we're going to come back with the topic of leadership. Leadership is arguably one of the most important skills inside of running any company. And the only way for you to actually get bigger and better and more profitable is for you to learn how to manage and lead people. If you don't know how to lead people, you're going to be limited to what you can do by yourself with a backpack and a laptop. And that's not a problem. It's a good life. But if you want a great life, and you want to build a business that impacts people, and you want to build shit that changes the planet, you're going to have to learn how to lead people. You're going to have to learn how to lead your clients. You're going to have to learn how to lead your teams. You're going to have to learn how to lead the marketplace. You're going to have to learn how to lead movements that matter. Okay, so in the time that you watched that entire message and or listened to the entire podcast around the idea of knowing your numbers, it's likely that you've taken yourself in this series over the 4 parts we've talked about down to a place of understanding the power not only of your advertising and your marketing, but also the framing power of sales and the fulfillment of delivering high-value experiences, but how it all falls apart without the numbers. I would invite you to join us on a journey at warriorwealth.com and to be part of our next upcoming series and events. Although we've sold out for the event here in June, we'd love to have you on our future experiences. And for more information on that, head to warriorwealthnow.com. Until then, have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next week with episode number 5.